This is Sonnet 60. I'm in a weird hotel in Liverpool. Step 1, the rhyming couplet. And yet to times and hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth, despite his cruel hand. Despite his cruel hand. Actually, I think this one's about time, and his cruel hand, I believe, is about time. Okay, last words of each bit, each line. Sure end before contend. So sure end before contend. Not sure what's sticking up there. You know, shore, the seashore, contend, to deal with. Light crowned fight confound. So this fight, light crowned, crowning of light, fight. Youth brow truth mow. So mow, often to do with the harvesting, and usually it's an image to do with time, cutting things down. So youth, brow, truth, mow. So maybe it's to do with your youth being cut away. And then stand and hand. You can't really tell much from those two words. Okay, so we'll break it into the 3 quatrains and the 4th section of the. So it'll be like that. And this is the version I'm using, which is Penguin. The quatrains, the 3 groups of 4 lines, the rhyming couplet, the last group of 2 lines. Now the full stops, the breaths, should I say. Now we're going to breathe at the start and the end, because you're always going to take a breath to begin, and you're not going to stop just because you're finished. Okay, so we know we always breathe on a sentence ending, and the sentence ends in 3 ways: full stop, exclamation mark, question marks. So at the end of the first quatrain, we have a full stop on contend, we have a full stop on confound, full stop on mow. So that's quite nice and even. So we've got those 3 extra breaths. Anything within the quatrains? No. Okay, then we'd look for the next biggest punctuation, which is the semicolon, the colon. But there are none of those. Then we'd look for the semicolon, but there are none of those. So we're down to the oh, actually there are. At the end of line 2, we have the semicolon. So I've just marked that in. Now, an even sonnet, usually the breaths will be every other line. And that semicolon at the end of line 2 fits in with that. We've got a comma at the end of line 6, line 2 in the next quatrain. Let's just put the breath in there. We've got a comma in line 2 in quatrain 3. So let's put the breath in there. So we're doing this all technically. There's a lot of stuff you can do before you read the sonnet. So we're just doing all the technical stuff, and we can adjust it if we need to afterwards. Okay, so now let's look at the Césures, which is the natural break within a line. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? To be or not to be, that is the question. So there's a natural beat, mini beat. It's not a breath, it's not a pause. Like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore. So like as the waves, Césure, and I mark it with a little V thing. Actually, that looked more like a breath. There you go. That's a bit better. So do our minutes, Césure, hasten to our end. Each changing place with that which goes before. Each doing this with this other thing. In sequent toil, all forwards do contend. In sequent toil, all forwards do contend. What's that? In marked out work, everything that progresses has to deal with, I don't know, something like this. Nativity, once in the... So we're looking at flowing phrases, like we speak in real life. And nothing stands before his scythe to mow. And nothing exists, nothing's born that won't be touched by death. So this is another, you're running out of time, so do stuff, which I've just been reading a bit of Seneca to do with the shortness of time, the shortness of life. this thing about stop putting things off and value the time, because money is something you can always get back, but time, it's on its way out. So spend it and live. Yet to times in hope my verse shall stand. Yet to times in hope my verse shall stand. After hope, I would think. Praising thy worth, comma, Césures, despite his cruel hand. So it's quite an even sonnet. The breaths are pretty even, the Césures are pretty even. Okay, so now we're going to read through the bits and pieces of it and work out what the hell he's talking about. Like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end. Just like waves coming to the shore, our lives are lapping to an end. Each changing place with that which goes before, in sequent toil, all forwards do contend. So each minute we had changes place with the last one, like a wave replacing another one. These minutes rolling in like the waves and rolling out. Nativity, once the main in light, crawls to maturity. So nativity, our birth, once the focus of everything, crawls towards maturity. You start to grow up. You start to age, wherewith being crowned, crooked eclipses against his glory fight. The eclipse covers up the light, so when there's an eclipse, the sun's covered or the moon's covered. So nativity, once the main in light, crawls to maturity, where within being crowned, crooked eclipses against his glory fight, and time that gave doth now his gift contend. So the light of your nativity is eclipsed, is covered up. Time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow. The flourish set on youth, the beauty set on youth, time gets a hold of and digs into your face, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. And time will eat you up, and everything that's planted, the scythe will mow, death will come. Yet to times in hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth, despite his cruel hand. Yet to times in hope my verse shall stand, yet I look on the bright side of life. And my verse is what I've done, my achievements, and my thoughts of you will remain despite death, despite his cruel hand. Again, it's another great thing about the shortness of life. I love all this stuff. Let's just try it one last time. Like as waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end. Each changing place with that which goes before, in sequent toil, all forwards do contend. Nativity, once the main in light, crawls to maturity, wherewith being crowned, crooked eclipses against his glory fight, and time that gave doth now his gift confound. I've got a feeling that it might be better to put that breath after fight rather than crowned, because it seems to be breaking up the sentence too much. So, nativity, once the main in light, crawls to maturity, wherewith being crowned, crooked eclipses against his glory fight. And time that gave doth now his gift confound. So I would do that as an uneven line. Time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. It might even be nice to do the breath on the third line of the third quatrain, because you've got this list, and it's kind of summed. So, time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to go back to how it was. Keep it at brow. Okay, hence the pencil and eraser combo. Yet to times in hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth, despite his cruel hand.